Hey, this is Step Amit. Welcome to my Exorcism.io series. In this video, I'll be working through the grains exercise from the Exorcism.io Ruby track. Okay, in this exercise, we need to calculate the number of grains of wheat on a chessboard, given that the number on each square doubles. Here's a little story about it, about a wise servant who asked for this. There's 64 squares on a chessboard. It's an 8x8 grid. Write code that shows how many grains are on each square and the total number of grains. So let's go ahead and grab this. Go ahead and remove the file that just has the beginning comments, and I'm going to copy in my rake file that allows me to run my tests easily, and I'll start a new TMX session. Let's go ahead and open up the tests and see what we've got. All right, in a file called grains.rb, we will have a class named grains with a class level method square that takes an integer and returns an integer. So it looks like this is the switch square, and then this is the number of grains of wheat in that square. Starts at 1 and yet doubles each time. We're going to raise argument errors for invalid squares. And we need to return the total number of grains on the board. All right, let's get started. Actually, before I do that, let me open my test running pane, and I will run the test for the first time, which will of course fail because I deleted the grains.rb file. So let me recreate that as a truly empty file, swap those panes, and keep going. And if you've seen this before, you know I just kind of let the test failures guide me as I go. Initialize constant grains. So let's go ahead and initialize our class. Next, it'll complain about the square method because I haven't defined that yet. Undefined method square, so let's go ahead and do that. And now it'll complain about the arity of this method because I have not supplied, or I don't accept an argument. Let's go ahead and do that. And let's see. It's not really an index. It's well, it is if it's a one-based index. See, I want to call it square, but that's going to stomp on the method name. I think I'll call it underscore square. Is that weird? Is that going to mess you up? That's kind of weird. I'll leave it for now. We'll see if I keep it. It's okay. And of course, I'm not returning anything. We need to return a 1. And the first test will pass. All right, let's keep going. For this test, square 2 has to return a 2. And so I could do the most naive thing here to get both of these to work and just return square because the number is the same for what I've been passed. And of course, this will fail because the square is 3 and we need to return 4, but we're going to return 3 here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come up with some sort of implementation here that maybe will be. I think this will be enough to give me the full thing here. So the way this works is a square. So we start at 1, and we double for every square. So a square will contain, because it doubles, 2 raised to the power of the, well, not the square exactly, square minus 1, because it's a 1 based index, and we need in the first case to be 0. Is that right? Yep. So we need to return square, but we need the actual index of it. So we can subtract 1 right now. I think we're going to refactor that to something a little more explicit later, but that's what we need. And so it's 2 raised to the power of that, because it's 2 times itself for however many, whatever square we're on. If we start at 0, 2 raised to the 0th power, because that's our very first square, is going to give us a 1. 2 raised to the first power will be 2. 2 raised to the second power will be 4, so on and so forth. And so this gives us what we need. And I think we'll be good all the way through until we have to handle bad input. Okay, 0 raises an exception. This will fail because we're not raising any exception. So let's just raise argument error if square is less than 1. Yep. And okay, this will pass. We handled this case. Okay, and now we need to handle the other side. We're not handling this, but we need to know if we've run off the top of the chessboard. So, or square is greater than 64. So our first square on the chessboard is 1. Our last square is 64. We want to know if we've run off either end. Okay. And then finally, we need total. This will fail because we have not implemented total. Okay, and so total, we need to add up the total for each square. And so if we So what I want to do is I want an array of squares, of each square. And so let's see, the quickest way I know to do that would be to get a range from 1 to 64. And then I'm going to convert that to an array. Actually, I may not have to do that. I'll check in a second. And once I have an array here, what I want to do is I've got an array of 64 squares, but I want a single value. So whenever you're taking a list, an array, and you want to produce a single value from it, that is a reduce operation. And so this will give me each square. Actually, I need to, again, underscore so that I don't stomp on the name of the method. And reduce also gives you an accumulator. I'll just call it ACC. That's sort of a convention for that. And I want to initialize it to 0 instead of nil. And what I want to do, what I want to return is ACC plus square. So the way reduce works here, you initialize it with a value. And so the first time for the first element, so we're 1 in this array, accumulator is going to be 0. So ACC will be 0, and this will be 1. And whatever you return from this block will be the value of ACC for the next element. So here, if it's 0 and I add this will be 1. This will return 1. So the next time around it'll be 1, and I'll be adding 2 all the way up to the end. So this should work. Yep. Let me see if I need this to A, or if a range can reduce. Yes, a range can reduce. Look at that. All right, that's all the functionality. Let me refactor this real quick. So what I want to do here is this. I want to give this bit of functionality a name here. Square is less than 1, or square is greater than 64. What I'm really asking is, what I really want to do is raise an argument error if out of range. And so I'm going to create that as a private class level method out of range that I will give square to. Again, I've got to use that underscore. And let me start just by pasting this in here. And now as I go in here, I see I've got these magic numbers. I want to do something about that. I'm going to call this min square and max square. But I need to define those. So min square is 1 and max square is 64. And actually this range goes also here from min square to max square. All right, what about these here? So 2 in this case is the multiple. It's like what is the multiple moving from one square to the next? Multiple is 2. And I don't really like this here. Square minus 1. I'm just trying to get the index of that particular square in the array of squares on my chessboard. You know, I think I want to be a little bit more explicit about this. And in fact, I can do this here. If I make this actually not that, but squares, and I want this to be an array, which should just work. An array from min square to max square. And then what I want this here, what I actually want to do is replace this. I want squares index of square. What didn't you like about that? There we go. I think this is just a little more explicit in communicating what I'm getting. I mean, the value's the same, right? It's like I know here, but here's the difference. When I have this, and I'm looking at, I'm handing this to the power of method square minus 1. This relies on me knowing implicitly that that square minus 1 will give me the index of square. But that's just sort of an accident of how our squares are named, the fact that they're named with the numbers 1 through 64. This doesn't really communicate the idea of what this is. It's just another way of getting the same thing. But when I explicitly go to my board, my squares array, and I ask for the index of that square, that number, this is really what I want. I want the multiple to the power of whatever the index of the square that I'm asking for is. This communicates the concept, the idea of what I'm after. So that's why I want to do that. And actually, if I have this, I can replace that with squares.min, and I can replace that with squares.max. And get rid of those. No. I can't get rid of those. You know what I'm going to do? Let me put those back real quick. I can get rid of those if I re-inline them here, 1 to 64, converting this range into the array. And the reason I did it this way, as a range to an array, is because this is a lot faster and easier than typing out this entire array. So while I was developing this and kind of figuring out the solution to this, I was optimizing for, typing less, right? And for how quickly can I run the test again and get to green or to the next failure message or whatever. But now that I'm refactoring this, what I'm thinking about, the question I'm asking is like, what's this going to look like to somebody else in 6 months when they come here? And to me, this range.2a is a little, it's not indecipherable, but it's not quite as clear as I could be. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually explicitly type out this full array, and I'm going to do it in 8 rows of 8 columns so that it looks kind of like the chessboard. And that's going to be much more explicit. But to spare you, because it's going to take me a little while to type, I'll speed through the rest of this, but I'm going to go ahead and type it out real quick just to be explicit. Hey, real quick, if you're getting value out of this video, please don't forget to click the like button and subscribe and click that bell if you want to be notified when I post new content. All right. So yeah, if I were coming in to this class down the road to understand it, maybe make a change or fix a bug or something, I would much rather see this. This is much easier to understand what's happening. Yeah, okay. This looks good to me. I'm not really sure what else I would do. Let me go ahead and submit this. Hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking through to the end. As always, if you got value out of this course, please click the like button below and don't forget to subscribe so that you can be notified when I post anything. And if you would like a deeper dive into how to approach refactoring, to a workflow that you could apply so that you can write code today that you won't hate in 6 months, become a hero to your team and add massive value to your company, then please check out my tactical refactoring course linked to in the description below. And I will see you in the next video.